So, Mitchell, we're back for another episode of This Podcast is Garbage, number 8. And we brought another guest in that's a real guest. I haven't tried to say your name yet. So it's Vanessa Asaguera.
Pretty close. You
Okay.
just got to roll your R a little bit.
I
But
can't
it's
do that.
Vanessa Oseguera.
Oh, yeah, I can't do that. So, well, that's great. And you are with Keep Columbus Beautiful.
Yes, I'm the executive director.
Okay. And I heard, are you on national? What's that?
Yeah, so what Keep Columbus Beautiful is we're just the local affiliate for Keep America Beautiful.
Okay.
So we're a smaller part of a very large national organization.
Okay.
I also happen to sit on the board of directors for Keep America Beautiful, so
Oh, nice.
can represent the little guy at the big table.
Yeah, that's interesting. So, because I've heard of this Keep America or Keep Columbus, and then there's like Keep Fremont. What how does it work? Like, what exactly does the organization do from a like national level, and then it's like subsidiaries? Is that the term to use?
It could. So what do we all do, like as far as across the board? We're all affiliates. So we're the ones here in Nebraska are all affiliates of Keep Nebraska Beautiful as well.
Okay.
So we have a local level, a state level, and then our national headquarters. And so, the programs kind of vary from city to city, state versus state. And so everybody's program might look a little bit differently, but we all kind of have the same mission. To educate individuals on litter prevention. We also, really promote recycling efforts, increasing recycling efforts, and then also beautification of our communities, along with a lot of volunteer engagement.
So, is it sort of top down and from bottom up, where you're always kind of coming up with like, hey, we tried this strategy over in this state or this town, so do you run that up the ladder and they take that strategy and try it somewhere else?
So there is a lot of networking.
Yeah.
We definitely do our best to try to, it's kind of hard getting all of our ideas up to national level,
Sure.
but there are plenty of opportunities to like showcase, really, really aspiring projects or programs that people have came up with.
Mm-hmm.
I recently presented, I think a year or two ago at the national conference for our Feed the Goats campaign.
Oh, cool.
So it's literally something that like we started here in Columbus, but it can be replicated and duplicated and done all across the U.S. because we all have seasonal food waste. And so I don't know if you guys are familiar with that.
Feed the Goats?
No.
Yeah. Do tell.
So it's
Sounds
basically around Halloween and Thanksgiving, we always have like pumpkins, gourds, hay bales, all of that stuff.
We hate pumpkins as garbage men.
I know, and this program started because I got so many calls from garbage men's secretaries saying
What do you do with pumpkins?
our guys get so tired because they were still, like hand throwing stuff in the back of the truck, and people want bigger and bigger and bigger pumpkins.
It's crazy. The pumpkin thing's just gotten out of control, and people will load down cans. Like, before we had better equipment, like pumpkin season was the worst season.
Yes. And
Fireworks are bad, but pumpkins are extremely heavy.
Absolutely. And then they get all rotten and mushy. So anyways, with the whole Feed the Goats campaign, we during Halloween, Thanksgiving, we brought out trailers that were donated and kind of managed by a family here that has a goat farm.
Oh, no.
And so they would haul, our pumpkins back to their farm and use it for like, goat snacks.
Yeah.
And, they had other animals, but we mainly focused on the goats. And so that way we could divert all of that seasonal food waste that is, completely organic.
Yeah.
And get it out of the landfills.
Just organics going to a landfill, like, not ideal.
Right.
Yeah. That's huge. Yeah.
And so again, like Halloween, Thanksgiving, you have all of this decor outside that's really not being utilized for anything else other than that. Everyone across the U.S. could do this program. And so when we presented, we got a ton of questions from the audience in regards to like, well, what does setup look like? And, we're going to do this. And then so like these last 2 years after we presented, we've been able to see all of the other affiliates across the states that have utilized or implemented another program similar.
And like, I feel like something like that would be easier to regulate contamination. Because like when you have like community drop off for like recyclables or electronics, people are like, oh, I can get rid of this or I can get rid of that. And like when it's pumpkins, it's like, no, we're just just pumpkins.
Yeah.
Or hay bales.
And then honestly, with the outreach, like when we do the trunk or treats and the goats get to come out and families see,
Yeah.
you know, the
the
interaction, kids, goats, you know. I mean, those are kind of the big eye-opening.
Yeah. Well, Mitchell had told me horror stories of his dad when he was working by himself, which, like, I would equate your single dad, like your single op ran by your dad would be like a dairy farmer, where it's like you can't stop. Like, there's always gonna be something. It's hard to take a vacation, so you're almost always tired. And then pumpkin season comes along, and it's just like that straw, or it's like just that one additional thing where it's like, this is gonna break.
Yeah.
It's just like going around and putting just extremely heavy objects in all the cans. As if emptying all the cans isn't bad enough, you just like overload them.
Oh, yeah.
And then throw them on the ground.
And then you got like this Vala's pumpkin patch thing. So like it's just more and more and more. How many pumpkins can I put in my yard?
Right. So, and then it's additional tonnage. So
yeah, it's weight. It drives costs.
And I don't know if people really realize that when you throw out more garbage. How do I phrase it? I was responding to a comment on YouTube once. I'm like, just because the trash is worthless doesn't mean it's free to get rid of.
Right.
And when I put all that extra weight on a truck, I still, the company has to pay for the disposal. And like the people are always like, well, why do you care? You're just an employee. You're advocating for some company. I'm like, this dictates whether I get raises or not.
Sure. Absolutely.
Ultimately, I'm trying to raise a family. And so, yeah, I'm going to advocate for, hey, let's have all the trash in the cart. And if you need more trash service, just get more carts as opposed to throwing it on the ground. But yeah, adding that disposal weight and then adding the bill at the end of the day and the labor, the risk of injury.
Yeah, and there's such a good byproduct for that. I mean, that's not too hard. You source like a local farmer, you get a trailer. And
yes.
So from idea to application, what were some of the hurdles where it sounds awesome where it's like, we'll just get this farmer to show up with a trailer and take a bunch of pumpkins? Was there like some logistical curveballs?
Oh, there's always, I mean, it's with anything. Like you always have to kind of plan for the worst. And so, finding the great appropriate location. So you always want somewhere that's, visible, lots of traffic. Right. It kind of decreases bad behaviors, I guess we could say.
Right.
And so, we did Ace Hardware one year, and Ace happens to have their own pickup and their own trailer. Oh. So, one of the hurdles was people were utilizing that one, even though there was this other one, just right on the other side that said, hey, feed the goats. Like it had this.
So people
big
just
sign.
show up, they see a pickup, and they're like, oh, you just throw it in there.
Yes.
So all of a sudden the Ace
even though
Hardware
there's no pumpkins in it. And then, so then I would have to go out and unload them into put them in the correct container.
Jeez.
Well, running public drop-off sites, I think, would be one of the most challenging things to do.
Yeah.
Like, we deal with people at their homes and on an individual basis, whereas, like, you're at a public location and anybody can, like, utilize it, which just would create, I think,
stress.
Very bad situations. Yeah. And I think you have examples of that.
Oh, I do. There's a lot of days that make me question why I do what I do.
Yeah.
Right.
But at the end of the day, I literally have to remind myself, okay, this doesn't happen all the time. Mm-hmm. Just because it happened, a few randoms, like I'm always going to have those little bumps in the road.
Right.
But a majority of the people do want to do it right and are utilizing the service correctly. It's just those few that don't, that really make it stand out.
And that's why I try to remind myself, because what we probably share as far as garbage men or executive director of Keep Columbus Beautiful is you'll have these moments where you're like, is everybody like this? And it's like, no. It's just like 1 to 2, 3% maybe. Mm-hmm. And it's just.
But the 10% that cause the problems, it's 90% of your headache. The good portion, the majority of the people, that's just like daily routine. But it's
the way I described it to my wife talking about contamination was, if I have 5 gallons of water and someone puts a teaspoon of shit in it, I now have shit water. Like, granted, 5 gallons of water, just a teaspoon, but 1 teaspoon. That's like, it's bad. And that's kind of what it feels like when, you service 1,000 people and then you got a few of these bad apples on your route. And you're just like, what's going on? But you got to remind yourself, it's a small fraction of the people.
Right.
And so, So do you have someone that sits at these locations kind of monitoring it,
Do
or
you have help?
So, are you talking about for the pumpkin drop off?
or just in general?
Well, I'd say more. So you have the pumpkin drop off, but then the other main drop off you do would be the recycle trailers.
Right. So at the recycling trailers, no, we don't have. They're not manned. That's why they're kind of in. We try to get them in visible areas that have high
Right.
traffic. So that way it just kind of deters the bad behavior.
Right.
And the illegal dumping. But,
Mm-hmm.
the whole goal of that program was to actually be, very sustainable, really efficient, and easy. Simple. I made it as simple as we possibly could. I did not factor in, human error there. And in regards to, there's a lot of things that we could definitely do different.
Yeah.
But it really boils down to education. A lot of people don't truly know, like, recycling is so different in so many areas. Like, even from here to Schuyler, from here to Fremont, from here to Norfolk, like, all of our recycling programs are different. And so if you just move here, like, well, I just did that at home. Why is it so different here? We're only like 40 minutes or 40 miles, whatever. And so education is really key on getting local recycling, like what you do locally, and to try to kind of get that out there so that way people can do it how it's actually supposed to be done.
Well, and we're just kind of a transportation company. I mean, we're collecting no different than you're collecting with your trailers, and then it's going to a facility. So depending on what facility it's going to, there's just completely different, is it a sorting facility? Does it have to be pre-sorted before it gets there? There's just a lot of variables that go into that, and, we're just transporting it.
Right. And we're kind of the same.
Yeah.
We're literally, there's compartments, but if you don't utilize them correctly, okay, what happens? Well, then that's when it gets to the facility in Schuyler, then our staff actually has to hand sort it and take the extra time to do that, where it was supposed to be simple and efficient, and then it just kind of gets a little gray there.
It reminds me of like we kind of described ourselves as transportation companies. You almost require a mastery of like language and communication, because we make these stickers to put on our carts with arrows and bilingual text saying, lids, point the arrows this way, and wheels to the house. And we still have people after 2 years. We'll put it backwards. And like I've taped them shut. Like I'll put one sticker on the lid and then it's still wrong, and then I'll put a sticker to tape it shut so they can't even open it the next time without having to see the sticker.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's because different people in the household are putting it out different weeks, and one reads it, one doesn't, or I don't.
Well, it's just automatic too. I mean, they've been doing it the same way for 10 years. There's just, you got to like break that cycle, which is so difficult.
So when you have someone that's been already accustomed to recycling moving into your area, and they've already been learned for 5 years of one method, to unlearn it, it's like all I wanted to do was drive a truck and haul stuff, and now it's like you have to do this magician's work of communication.
Absolutely.
So like, are you constantly evolving that process? Is it like pictures and text? Is it,
It's everything. Yep.
Yeah.
What you guys are seeing,
Shotgun
I mean, we
approach.
literally, we do the same. It's, social media posts, and in regards to our signage, our compartments, these are a majority of plastic number ones.
Right.
To me, the worst part about recycling is the cost of the contamination. Like everyone's like, why is recycling so expensive? Well, one of the main cost drivers of recycling is contamination. If it wasn't contaminated, it'd be so much easier.
Yeah.
But you go down to some of these recycle facilities like First Star Fiber, and you see how many semi-loads of garbage they haul out of First Star Fiber, because that's how much garbage gets put in these containers.
Yeah.
It's like, how much does that cost to get all that out of there, so that way they then have a manageable amount of commingled recyclables that they can pull apart.
There's kind of this popular, like I'm seeing some like pundits on YouTube do these stories about recycling being a scam, and you kind of want to tell them, I'm like, it does work. It can work. It's just if it gets contaminated, that's when you see all that trash go to, or the recycle, because they'll put like trackers on recyclable materials.
Sure.
And they'll like, oh, we followed it all the way to the landfill. And it's like, well, yeah, if it's contaminated, that's where it goes. It doesn't mean everything that goes into the facility goes to the landfill. It just happens to be.
That was a bad batch.
Yeah. And so like, do you run into that a lot at these sites? Is it like you'll have some guy that tries to tell you like everything he knows about recycling?
Oh
when
yeah,
when
there's
he doesn't
plenty
do the
of
job. Yeah,
there's plenty of experts out there in our
Yeah.
field.
Yeah, right.
Self-appointed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it just goes back to the way that recycling was done before.
Mhm.
It's evolved so much and it's changed so
Right.
drastically that it's like it's as soon as you learn one thing, it's like, oh, it changed. You used to have to
Right.
take the labels off. You used to have to take the lids off. Now you
Yeah.
can leave it. Oh, is a pizza box, recyclable? Does it have cheese? Does it have oil? Like it just all of those little
Right.
things constantly change, and so it's fairly difficult for even just your average person if you're not in it every single day, like
Yeah.
to keep up with all these recycling rules and
Yeah.
all of that.
Well, I feel like, when we toured First Star Fiber, they got the Omaha contract, when Omaha switched from, they were just picking everything up, landfilling it, to now they have a 2-container system. But I think they just kind of got aware of the fact that they're going to have a lot of contamination, and they just have to deal with it. And they just pass the cost along.
Yeah.
And that's why recycling, has gotten more expensive. It's like, do we try to get people to, have clean, recyclables that come in here that we can do at a better price? Or do we just accept the fact that it's going to take more manpower, it's going to take more machines to figure out how to get this all pulled apart, so that way we can separate the garbage from what is actually going to be recycled?
Yeah. That's kind of why we had to get rid of our 3 through 7 compartment on our trailers. It was chronically.
So how do your trailers work?
So the trailer has 6 compartments, and so there's 2 of them now that are marked for plastic number 1s, one of them for plastic number 2s, one of them specifically for milk jugs, and then one of them for aluminum, and then the other for steel and tin. And so we used to have one of the plastic number 1s was the 3 through 7. And in that compartment alone, like I did the trailer several times. And so it would take me the longest amount of time sorting. And then when you actually got to the materials that were valid 3 through 7s, it was less than a third of the entire compartment.
What you started with?
Yeah. And
Wow.
so then everything else was literally going into the garbage at Skylar's facility because it was unacceptable product. Like it's stuff that they can't take it. There's no like outsourcing it. It's not going anywhere. And so we had to, get rid of that compartment because we were really driving up their garbage bill.
Well, that's kind of what I'm wondering. Like, you have these trailers, and like a lot of the byproduct of the trailers, you go there and they want it sorted.
Mm-hmm.
So you're pulling a lot of stuff out of there that doesn't qualify, and it's like, well, now here I am with this. What do I do? So they obviously have a means to dispose of it, but
Yeah, and at
probably
a
aren't-
cost.
they probably aren't too happy when you fill up their container.
No, they are not. And so that's why, ultimately.
Does Skylar like Columbus? Like us, like using their facility?
We have an agreement with them. We haven't ran into too many issues. Anything that we run into, we kind of address right away because
But-
we want to keep a really good relationship.
Right, but I guess anybody driving over there personally is doing a very good job if they're going that far out of their way to recycle.
Oh, sure.
And then you're obviously doing a very good job of like making sure that these trailers like go there and don't like
Mess anything up.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, they definitely do like the increase in their volumes for recycled content,
Sure.
but they also have an increase in more contamination with more unlocal folks coming in and bringing their materials. And it's the simple things like, not knowing what chipboard is. Does it go with the cardboard? You got to sort the magazines here versus the newspapers. Like it's a different setup where everyone was used to those green fiber bins. And so they just threw all of their fibers in together. And so, yeah, it was very different.
You said green fiber, so what happened to green fiber in Columbus?
Well, there was just a lot of contamination, and it got to the point of really unacceptable and very costly.
But
And so-
green fiber, they had,
Yeah.
and he went up and looked
Yeah.
at the Norfolk facility.
Yeah, I actually drove up there because I've been wanting to do content up there. So I went there and just did a quick little tour, and I took a few photos. I forgot to prep them for today. But it's one of those I want to show people when they're like, oh, recycling's a scam, it doesn't work. And have you ever been up to this now?
I have, yep.
Yeah, so you've seen where you see where all the cardboard comes in these bales. They break it open, they run it through a processor, and then it's like this whole Willy Wonka chocolate factory apparatus that breaks it all down. And then the last room you get to is just pallets and pallets of insulation.
Yeah.
But
I was
that
like-
was a factory direct recycle program. Like
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
were the cardboard that was getting collected in Columbus, and they were doing it for free,
Yeah.
which is crazy. I mean,
They
before
were
like
donated back.
well, yeah, you would get like
Yeah.
tax credits or something. I'm not sure how that worked.
No, they actually paid.
They paid.
The individual host sites,
Yeah.
a certain amount based on, your volume.
But at the end of the day, they weren't like a collection company. They were a manufacturer
Right.
using, recycled cardboard to make
Yeah.
insulation. But they're like, okay, within, this amount of distance of our facility, let's put out all these dumpsters, and then we'll source clean cardboard that we don't have to buy from a First Star Fiber, where like
Yeah.
our recycling goes, they pull the cardboard out, then they sell it to them.
Right.
And it was a good idea. It was a great idea.
That was a great one.
Phenomenal
except
idea.
for a handful of people that
Mhm.
ruined it for everyone.
Yeah.
Amazing business model. I like truly,
Yeah.
that could, if it could be duplicated everywhere, how great that would be, because they literally
Yeah.
sold the product, but they got the product kind of for free.
Yeah.
And diverted so much from,
Massive amounts.
yeah.
And it went straight to the factory. It
Yep.
didn't have to go get transported twice, get pulled apart. It was the best program, but it didn't work because it doesn't work when you have these community drop bins that everyone has to do their part and correctly use.
Yeah.
Because they had one in Duncan, and we got calls multiple times that we had to empty it in our garbage truck because they showed up and they wouldn't empty it. People like hunted game on the river and threw the game in the green fiber bin.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm sure you've heard some crazy story. I
Well,
mean, the
I've
St.
seen
Bon's
tons of
drop
it,
site
but yeah.
was-
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That-
Yeah, it's kind of a shame, but also it's very intriguing because I'm kind of into brains and like how the whole thought process.
Social
that they-
theory.
yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
And so it's like, okay, I would love to interview the person who thought throwing the deer carcass in there was a good idea, or even just an idea.
Yeah.
Like, did you not know, there's just so many questions that I would have asked.
Yeah.
And,
Or just-
ultimately, I don't know that it would have boiled down to like, well, I just don't care. It,
Yeah.
it probably would have been like, oh, I,
s-
didn't
I
know.
saw a dumpster. I didn't
Yeah.
know.
Or just like see the person, like who is this person that does that? Because I told, like, before we started recording, I told you the story where, I'm working outside on my farm and my dogs are huffing at a vehicle that's driving too slow, and he gets by some cottonwoods that he gets by a bridge that's kind of blocked by cottonwoods, but I can see through, and I see him tossing stuff out of the back of his truck. It's just a middle-aged dude that lived in a nearby town.
Know his name.
Yeah, and people
neighbor knew him.
Neighbor knew him. Like, he was familiar enough where the neighbor knew him, and it's like, why? It's like,
Yeah.
you're an adult. You're an adult person. Like, teenagers, I can maybe get this whole recklessness and don't care, maybe, but even the teenagers, I've met some recently that I'm like, they're way more mindful than a lot of my peers when I was a teenager.
Yeah.
So that's what blows my mind is you'll see like someone publicly dumping in a ditch, and like, who are these people?
Yeah. What's the thought process behind there?
Yeah.
Like,
They're
don't you
around
have a
us every
container
day.
at home?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't know.
And then like and you'd think they do it because it's like, oh, it'll be cheaper. I'm like, you actively had to drive miles in your
Waste your
truck.
fuel
Yeah, like this
and
is-
your time.
Yeah, like, wouldn't it have been easier just to walk out your front door and put it in a trash can, and then just pay someone to show up and take it? But because when he wanted to turn around, he didn't just turn around on the road. He drove like a mile and a half down to a county line to circle all the way around to be inconspicuous. I'm like,
Maybe
dude,
that's like his Saturday activity, though.
I don't know.
That's like,
Oh man, none of it made sense.
Mhm.
Like, from top to bottom, like financially, time wise, all like practically nothing made sense. But for whatever reason, he did it. And yeah, I'm right there with you. It's like, what's
Where
Like-
did that connect, and how did
Yeah.
how did that play out in your head versus mine? Because
yeah,
that's not my thought process, but I would love to understand yours.
right.
Like, I would have literally loved to have been there and just been able to ask like at least bare minimum 5 questions.
Right. Well, do you have children? Like,
I do.
okay, so it's like when you watch a 2-year-old trying to figure something out, and you're like, what made you think that was a good idea? And
Yeah.
they don't understand certain concepts, so they take the shortest line of thinking, and that's what. And Mitchell doesn't have kids, so maybe he hasn't seen this, but that's what it's like interacting with some of these adults is like this child level connection of ideas where you're like, I know you're aware of like 2 concepts, but this is a little bit more complicated. So
Yeah.
Ugh.
That green fiber situation, though, that is just like really unfortunate what happened.
That was
Oh,
big.
it was
Yeah.
super tragic.
We noticed it
because
immediately. We
Yeah.
called you. I called Vanessa. I'm like,
Yeah.
what is going on?
Yeah.
That was a very frantic phone call. I do remember that. You're like, what the hell?
Yeah. Well, I think I called you first.
Yeah, he called me, then I called.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know what's going on, because every once in a while, like you'll start seeing trends on the route.
And that just
And-
happens with like the time of the
Yeah.
year. the
Oh,
months.
absolutely.
Yeah, and you're like, I'll start thinking, I was like, what holiday did we have? Is school in? Is school out? You know, you're trying to figure out what changed, and it was cardboard. Like every few stops, cardboard on
Yeah.
the ground, cardboard on the ground, and it's cool for a few viral clips, trying to get the truck to like pinch cardboard and toss it up. But once you do it like 10 times by 6 in the morning, you're like, what happened?
Yeah.
Like, this is not good. Oh, what a bummer.
Yeah, that was a tough one.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you guys seen our article in the paper about the grants that we received, but
Yeah.
we're hopefully working on something
Oh, really?
to kind of help, battle that. We received a grant to purchase 2 semi-trailers
Wow.
that will hopefully be housed down at the city transfer station, kind of in that area somewhere.
Yeah.
A fenced off area that you can't
Fenced and
access
manned.
at night.
Yes.
Yeah, that'd be huge.
Fenced and manned. And then we will provide those to the community, like for
Mhm.
residential, drop off of fibers.
Really?
So those trucks will then be transported over to Norfolk.
So all paper. Well, so Norfolk, I mean, they take pretty much any paper products.
Green,
so-
green fiber in Norfolk.
Yes.
Really?
Mhm.
2 semi, like, those could fill up quicker than you think.
I-
Because there's a lot of
I
cardboard.
guess we
out
kind
there.
of anticipated
and that's
maybe
good. No,
once a week
yeah.
or maybe twice a week.
That'd be
So
amazing. And it's not utilizing, there's 2 transfer buildings at Columbus, like the new and the old. So it's not using the old one for
No.
anything.
These will
It's just-
probably just have steps going in them, and
yeah, it's going to kind of have I believe, kind of a loading dock ramp that you walk up.
Yeah.
So that way,
And for people who are listening, thinking like, oh, isn't that going to take from our, like, is this a competitive scenario where it takes from Sanitation's recycling? I don't care. like
I don't
'Cause-
think it
no.
will be, because you guys have your customer base.
Yeah.
It's a lot more convenient,
ours is single stream though.
yeah, and it's great because it's, super easy
Mm-hmm.
and functional, and it works. You guys already have a system, and so this is just for those people who maybe have more paper than anything else, and
Yeah.
that's the only item they want to recycle.
Yeah.
I call our recycling lazy recycling.
Yeah.
But it's kind of the best way to go.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, but you have to pay to be lazy. But
Yeah.
you get to just throw everything in a bin. You
Mhm.
have to walk it out to the street, and then it's somebody else's problem.
Yes.
But you can get so much more value if that red recycle container, or not the red one, the blue, like another company uses red. The blue one that we have marked for recycling, if that's just all plastic bottles or pop cans, that you get so much more value out of that if it's already kind of pre-sorted, because all that bulky cardboard goes into a trailer at a community dump off site.
Yeah, and if you have like big bulky cardboard, it's like difficult fitting it in a container. So
Oh,
like
yeah.
having a drop off site where you can do a little bit more commercial scale recycling of cardboard's awesome.
You know what I'd like to see more of is, like if I lived in city, which would take, it'd take a lot for me to want to move into a town. I'm just not built for it. I have a certain degree of sociability. When my battery's exhausted, it's like I'm done.
Going to the
Depleted.
farm.
I'm done. Yeah. But I would like to see, like, everyone's in town, like every 2 houses has like a pickup. And it's like, why wouldn't like a neighbor just go, hey guys, going down to the trailer. So if you got cardboard, everyone's getting Amazon boxes throughout the week. Just throw it all in a pickup truck. Tip the guy $5 or something. I mean, that's what I would be doing if I had a big truck living in town. Just
Well, you'll probably see some of that when people realize that there's a community drop spot. Like,
yeah, maybe we'll make more content trying to.
I would hope that would be the case. It
Yeah.
just seems like a lot of people aren't familiar with their neighbors anymore nowadays. Like
Yeah.
that whole social construct of community is lacking
Yeah.
nowadays. And I think bringing that back would be
Mm-hmm.
so beneficial in so many ways. You bring back, the community pride, the actual resources, like people watching after your kids when they're out
Yeah.
running around in the neighborhood. Not that, out in the country it's a
Yeah.
little different, but
Yeah.
in town, just having people who know who your children are, who your family is, And then helping each other out. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I have always asked my neighbors for all kinds of things. You would think they'd probably find me annoying, but I think they've always been a bit older
Yeah.
than myself. And so I think that's what they're used to.
Yeah,
And so
just
it's
all
very-
cell phones and social media
Well,
Yeah.
isolation.
I kind of have a theory of going with this because it's related to farming. My dad would, so I do some small square hay farming on the side, little bales, and they're labor intensive, real brutal. And my dad would talk about like 3 families when he was a kid. 3 families would get together. It's like, yeah, we'd take all the balers, all the hay racks, and we do their field. And you've heard of greater than the sum of the parts.
Mm-hmm.
So 3 guys working together is the equivalent of 5 because they're all working in tandem.
together.
Yeah.
So they would do their field, do another field, do another field. And eventually I wondered, as technology progressed and made equipment cheaper, everyone got their own equipment and became more independent. I started buying these bale wagons because they would replace 2 or 3 helpers. And I was like, oh, I have no incentive to ask neighbors for help or want to go help neighbors because I'm all self-sufficient. And self-sufficient is cool, but you don't realize the cost is that loss of neighbor connection.
Yeah. The
And-
social aspect.
Mm-hmm. And I don't know if we really understood that calculus when we started making everything cheaper, easier, more accessible.
Yeah.
Like, it's easy to say social media and cell phones, but I think it's like just everything.
I mean,
Everything. Yes.
those
absolutely.
were catalysts, but it was just trending in that direction.
Sure,
Mhm.
sure.
So yeah, bringing, like even offering, go offer to help your neighbor. Like, hey,
Mhm.
I'm running down to the trailer. I'll do it on Mondays.
Right.
Like, hey, throw all your stuff in the back of my truck that day. Just the reaching out, the personal one-on-one interaction, and then
We almost should be doing content together. Like when do these trailers, if you get you're waiting for grant money and stuff.
well, we already have it. We already have our first trailer. It was actually donated.
Okay.
And so we're working on getting our second trailer.
It wasn't donated by the transfer station, I hope.
No.
Okay, you don't want one of their trailers.
Nope. And so it was actually donated by Tasty Topping. So it's a
Okay.
very, very good trailer.
Okay.
Well, I feel like, I think they utilize their trailers for even recycling within their.
Well, the first batch, the first semi was actually full of cardboard.
Yep.
So that was one of the stipulations in
Well,
taking
we
the
pick up Tasty
donation.
Toppings, and they don't have cardboard, so they figure out how to industrial or get rid of
Yeah.
their commercial cardboard.
Wow.
And so, yes, that first trailer was donated, and then we're working on purchasing a second trailer. We're looking at one next week here. So, next it's getting all of the legal kind of verbiage together because we are partnering with the city of Columbus, like
To be on their property and
to be on their property, but they're also their manpower is going to be taking the trailer over to the Norfolk facility.
so they're gonna do the hauling. For you.
Yes, and
That could be
so
donated.
it's all the city will be picking up that cost, and honestly it's going to it's going to cost to run this recycling program only for
Yeah.
paper products probably about $1,000 to $1,400 a week.
I believe it.
You
You're
you
doing
got
a couple
your
trips a day
just
or a couple trips a week.
right, and then fuel, insurance, registration.
So was that something as you get farther in this project, you start to realize like, oh man, there's all these like logistical costs that you're discovering?
Oh no, we
Yeah.
no, we hashed that out prior to.
Okay, but
um,
because like one of the things we have with issues since we post so much online, there's a lot of people that think, oh, why would you charge for that or why would you do that? And it's like, I don't think you understand how quickly things get expensive.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, when you're dealing with trucks, insurance,
Yeah.
roads.
Trailers.
Tires, just regular actual maintenance on equipment, and then if you're not prepared for it, we are a small nonprofit.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
Yeah.
we don't have a whole lot of capacity and
Yeah.
or funding sources. So
Do you get funding from federal or state, or where does
ours is
grant
mainly
money-
state.
state?
Yep. So we write to the Nebraska Environmental Trust and also the Nebraska Department of Environment and Energy.
Okay.
So they haven't turned a whole lot of my wild ideas down.
Nice. Nice.
right, nice.
So
Well-
I mean, right now it's kind of working, but we'll see how it goes.
Well, whenever you want to advocate for your wild ideas, we're both kind of crazy over here, so we'll listen to them.
Perfect.
We'll have you come on and advocate
Perfect.
for it.
But yeah, so we're pretty excited about that because it's a much needed, it's a source, like an item that we have nothing for right now, other than if
Mhm.
you personally drive it over to Schuyler and
Yeah.
take it to the facility, other than utilizing your guys' curbside service, obviously. But
Well, you're talking about setting these trailers up for continuous paper products, but then you also do, like, once a year, you have multiple drop sites.
yeah, well, we do different stuff like, for the large scale recycling events, tires, chemicals,
So you have a tire day.
electronics. Mm-hmm.
So how many different days do you have in a year?
It all depends on our grant funding.
So even that's contingent at funding.
Yes, absolutely. Because those people don't actually realize how expensive those events are. They just think, oh, it's free. Let's go take it in here.
No, we just want you to bring it here so you don't throw it in a ditch.
Yes, absolutely. I hate seeing containers of oil out on 8th Street by ADM, like all in these rural areas that aren't really that rural. Sorry, that double R word is rough. I have to mentally think rural. But we have so many places that people can take oil here for free, drop it off.
Yeah.
At no cost. You just drive it somewhere.
Right. Well,
But then you're just driving it to throw it in a ditch too. So
Drive
why
to the
not do the
transfer
right
station.
thing?
They got a trailer.
yeah.
Yeah.
Right by the scale house. You can just dump it in.
Yeah. So, we write these grants to hopefully host these one-day events where people can bring in all of those, hard to dispose of items. And they do come at a price. So we try to do the scrap tire collection event annually. We always try to do at least 1 or 2 electronics collection events. And then
So where would the electronics go? So everyone brings their 1990s desktop computer, so you got 100 of them. Landfill's not going to let you dump 100 together.
right.
So where do you go with that?
So we hire a company. I utilize this great company out of Minnesota, the Retrofit companies, and they are certified, and so I know where the product is going. It's not leaving the U.S. To
Right.
go anywhere overseas, so that I know that they're breaking it down properly and it's being recycled efficiently and all of that good jazz. And so that's who we utilize, and that's where it's going, is up to Minnesota. They specifically bring a truck and a trailer down here all that way with 2 of their staff.
And you want to fill it because they made the trips.
Yes.
That's the idea behind the community day. Let's fill the trailer.
Yeah, and so then we just gather as much items as we can that day and ship them off.
So let's give that company a plug again. What was it called out of Minnesota?
The Retrofit companies.
Retrofit. Okay, because you briefly touched on it, and it reminds me, I think it was kind of during the COVID era story where all these electronics and old stuff would get on a container
Barge.
ship. Yeah, and they'd ship it to China. Then you'd have these horrendous photos from China of kids sorting through stuff, and you're like,
looking for metals, burning it
good.
down, and getting all
the
those plastics.
fumes,
Yeah, it's
so in Retrofit they do it a little different.
yes.
So what do they do with the end product? Is it just rare metals that they?
I'm not 100% sure on the end process there. I just know that they utilize their facility and they have the certifications that I was
Right.
looking for
Right. Yep.
specifically. And so I didn't do too much on the back end. I
But
have visited other facilities, and I know what I don't want,
Yep.
where I don't want to utilize some of the
Yep.
other services that are provided. And so they met all the criteria that I was looking for.
Here's the fun thought exercise. What would Columbus look like if everyone had the same approach as you when it came to recycling?
Oh, I think it would be so much cleaner and greener and healthier.
Yeah, because you've definitely, I'm getting the impression you've gone deep into the process of where everything kind of goes.
Well, I think that's how you got into the process.
Yeah.
Well, I just want to make sure it's done right because, recycling done wrong,
It's expensive.
it's expensive. But then it doesn't just have that financial aspect. It's literally hurting the environment.
Mhm.
That is not my goal. That is
No.
completely opposite. Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing.
So
and-
if everyone had that kind of mindset, recycling could actually be cheaper and better.
And more efficient.
Yeah, yeah.
But yes.
You could check all the boxes.
Yeah,
Usually everything's a
absolutely.
trade-off where it's it could be cleaner and better, but it's more expensive, or you can have better and least expensive, but it's not going to be as clean, like that. But you could feasibly, recycling could have it all
Yeah, absolutely.
if it was just better compliance, and that's the trick.
So I never recycled until we started recycling.
Okay.
So, I grew up and Dad was a garbage man and we
Sure.
threw
Yeah.
everything away. And it wasn't until, I mean, it was a handful of years ago, but I was with some of my friends. They're like East Coast friends.
Okay.
And I like was throwing recyclables away. And this girl's like, what are you doing? I'm like, well, I'm just throwing stuff away. They're like, you mean you like own a garbage company and you don't recycle? And that was like the moment where I was like, because like we'd always kind of been like thinking of doing recycling. When she like put it in those terms to me, I was like, this is kind of gross. Like we just landfill everything.
Diversion.
Which like at the time we didn't have the scale. Like
Yeah.
it was difficult. Like when we first started recycling, like it was a loss leader. But we were fortunate. Once we started recycling, we got a good customer base, and then we were able to combine with the Waste Connections recycler. So we got like an awesome program set up now. But when I started doing it, the biggest thing I realized was how clean it is. So like you go from like having this overflowing bin of just like dirty garbage, right? To you have a dirty bin, and then you have a recycle bin. And the awesome part about the recycle bin is everything's clean. Like when I pick up, when we go run routes, recycle routes, the best route because it's clean. Which
It's the people who really truly do it correctly. Like their items are empty. Like let's just say, I know I sent you some photos, but like the 24-ounce bottles of like wild cherry Pepsi that are still like, have half the content in there. You don't want that, and that contaminates your entire load, especially if you're commingling. And then, you have paper or cardboard in there, and it's like, well, when it gets crushed, it's just going to explode and damage the whole product, and so
everything's soiled and
But yes, it's supposed to be clean, and
Yeah, well, and then once you start doing it, you can't go back. I mean, I could never just like throw everything in a dirty bin and like.
Well, and then you realize like how much recyclable content you actually had in your home.
A lot.
Like almost everything in your bathroom that you utilize can be recycled.
And you look at a green fiber and what they're doing with like the cardboard, and it's just like, well, that's a no-brainer. Like cardboard should not be landfilled. Cardboard should be made into insulation.
Yeah. Papers, all paper fibers, just.
Yeah, that one really sunk in after, because the cue for me to go up there was when we found all the cardboard on our routes. That's when I was like, okay, let's go up to the facility and see what they're doing and kind of talk to that guy. And when I saw that whole tour and the end product of the installation, that's when I was like, man, well, there's something lost. Like that was tragic.
It's tragic because then it's like, okay, so paper has always been kind of mentally ingrained in people and kids, like especially at school. Like they equate to trees.
Yeah.
Like every, however many, this is how many trees you could have saved, or this is how many trees you save with recycling and all of that. Like that's how it's kind of the education is rolled out with paper and fibers.
My kids have picked up on it, and I didn't really teach them that. I don't know if they're getting it from school, because like we have recycling containers at my place that I'll haul in and just dump into our truck at the start of the route. But we had some soda cans. And I was like, oh, should we fill them up with water and shoot them with a 22 just for target fun? Yeah. And he's like, or we could recycle it. I was like, okay. It's like we could.
That's what the pumpkins are for, son.
I was like, okay. Or we could just recycle it after we shoot it. But I was like, all right.
Yeah.
But I mean, they'll save the tabs and they'll crush the cans and do the whole nine.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know where they learned it. I'm glad. It's great to see that mindfulness in children, and then you wonder how they lose it.
Hopefully it's that keep, whoever beautiful affiliate going into the classrooms and doing teaching, because that's a lot of what we do as well. So.
Okay, so like
the education.
After you're done emptying a trailer and sorting all the stuff you weren't supposed, you still have hours left over.
Yeah, absolutely. That is our main focus, is public education. Really? And so, if you're not teaching all generations about, litter prevention, recycling efforts, beautification, like there are other entities doing it, but not like that's not their main focus. And so.
Well, that goes back to me too. Like I just was never taught to do it. So then when I'm around, friends from a completely different area of the country that were taught to do it, and they're looking at you and they're like,
what is wrong with you?
Where were you educated?
So when this girl corrected you, was she like in a very motherly tone? Like
no.
Or was it like, because when someone comes at me aggressively,
she looked at me kind of gross.
Oh, really?
She's like, what? That's like gross.
Nice. Because I've had people like try to I won't go into details, but like you're commenting on stuff online, and someone like will be offended and they'll come at you hard. I'm like, well, now I'm gonna double down because you come at me.
I just sat there quiet.
Yeah, but like if someone comes at you like polite and kind of with this motherly tone, Does that make you more persuaded?
Well, no, I think they were more just like perplexed that we would own a garbage company and not recycle. They're like, how can you own a garbage company and not recycle?
So there's a little bit of shame.
That makes zero sense.
A little bit of shame.
Yeah.
Okay, that works. That actually does work in changing behavior.
Oh, really? Do you have examples?
Well, like the woman, earlier we were talking about, me being so bold as to, grab these families, to-go materials or whatever, their drive-through food, and throw it back in their car.
Yeah.
That I bet that drastically changed their behavior and their mindset. Like, oh, okay, this is not acceptable behavior.
Yeah.
I was
More
just
than likely.
immediately corrected, and I will never do that again because I don't ever want to feel like that again.
Yeah, and people care, or their children.
Right.
Because
there's a social component to it. I mean, everyone kind of holding everybody accountable.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because that's probably one of those things where it's shocking when you see your parents get corrected. Because, when you're kids, you think your parents are like, oh, they know it all. They know it all. This is normal. They can do it. And then you see that happen. You're like, oh, maybe my parents are.
Yeah, maybe they shouldn't do that. That is bad. I'm not doing that again.
Right. No, that's awesome.
I've got a question. So let's say instead of executive director, you were, let's say, like more of like a dictator position. Ooh. So you could like make any rule you wanted. Would you outlaw plastic sacks?
No.
Oh, really?
Plastic sacks? No.
We can change your mind.
I guess I don't know.
They are our biggest enemy.
Yeah. They are an enemy.
Recycling, they're an enemy. And then if they're not bagged and tied inside bigger bags, they just gone.
They do fly away. They look awful in trees. But it's kind of one of those things, like, I'm not 100% sure because I don't depend on them. However, there might be some individuals who do. It's kind of like plastic straws. They're not for everyone. If you don't have to use them, great. But then let's like that certain small percentage of people who do really actually need them. They can't do metal versus, just the easy bendy plastic. So I feel like there might be just a small market for plastic bags. I understand how frustrating they are because they're overly abundant and just available everywhere. I wouldn't mind like the charge for the plastic bag because then it can kind of deter,
Well, there's a cost to that bag that's not factored into the bag. That the bag doesn't always end up in the landfill. The bag ends up in the streets.
Yeah,
and then
in the streets, in the trees, stuck. You have to get it out.
The equipment at First Star Fiber,
farm equipment, out on country roads. Out in their country, like the farmers' fields.
I run a Tuesday route, and we go down by the golf course.
Quail
Run.
Okay.
Yeah. And Quail Run, it gets pretty windy there because not all the ground's developed, and obviously corn stalks. And for whatever reason, I run that on Tuesday, and the wind's been blowing every Tuesday for like 2 months. Every Tuesday.
Yeah.
And by the time I get there, the garbage has been out for a while, so the wind's been blowing, it's got the lids open, and there are just times where I'll pull up to stops, and it's just a bomb.
Yeah.
I mean, the cart blew over, nothing's bagged, and you just look in these cornfields, and they're just full of plastic bags. I think Melligers farm that. Like, I don't know if they have to go pick it up before they run their planter through there or what.
I couldn't imagine. Like, there's a lot of equipment, that runs through a lot of these, this ag land, and just knowing how troublesome those plastic bags are.
I think Melliger would outlaw them if he could. I think anybody with row crop would outlaw plastic bags.
So Highway 15 from Schuyler to Howells. I bet if you parked there, and maybe I'm giving cues to the DOT, and I apologize to other haulers, or the DOT probably already knows this, but if you wait at Schuyler and you watch trash trailers come from Fremont or Columbus and then follow up 15, the wind, when they're tarped trailers.
Yeah.
But when that wind is beating that tarp, you'll just see plastic sacks just getting sucked out of there.
Yeah.
Flying out.
Well, that's the problem, too. People just put these plastic sacks in the cart, and they assume since it's in the cart, it's going to the landfill.
Yeah.
But the transportation process,
right.
It's leaving the container into a hopper, then it's getting dumped on the floor in the transfer, then it's getting pushed into a trailer, and then it's traveling another, 30, 40 minutes?
70 miles an hour.
Yep, 70 miles per hour. Yeah.
We lose recyclables in our own, recycling trailer because, a water bottle weighs nothing.
Yeah.
And then on these extremely windy days that we just have consistently now, we tend to litter as well too, not intentionally, but it just flies out because it must have went through that crack or that wind hit it just perfectly and shipped
Does-
it right out of our container.
Do
So,
people ever ask you to go get it?
I haven't been asked before, but we have had calls like people behind
Yeah.
us saying, "Hey,
This is happening.
that I was behind you today, and whatever flew out." And
But recycling's so difficult because you can't bag it.
right,
It has to be unbagged because
Yep.
it's going to go to a sorting facility. And I mean, we have the same problem when our truck runs around on a windy day to recycle. But fortunately, whenever I run it and it's windy, mostly it's like paper products that are flying out. And obviously, like a paper product's going to decompose
Right.
way faster than cellophane or plastics.
so you guys think get rid of plastic bags in general?
What's that?
So you guys think get rid of
Well,
plastic?
I mean,
Well,
that maybe can segue
I've
us into
told
showing
you some of
clips.
my ideas in private conversation, but I don't think it'd be socially acceptable. Like my purge scenario.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you want me to share that idea? On
No,
this?
you don't need to.
Okay.
We could probably queue up clips, though.
Okay.
We'll
We'll
you
have.
send us some stuff, too, as well.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
definitely.
yeah, because we're
Trailers.
okay. We're at 52 minutes. So do we want to just kind of go through some examples and then kind of wrap it up? An hour
We can.
is
Yeah,
good.
whatever.
Because I feel like we could probably do this again.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Now I got to do this a
Yeah,
little.
if you're all right with it, you might be a reoccurring guest.
Hey, that works. I,
And if
I
you
feel
get
like
this-
we got a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
If you get those trailers down at the transfer station, we'll send them down there and
All right. So I
do
got
a
to.
big unveiling for them.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah, that'd be actually really interesting. We can help make some content for that. Because how much we're kind of going down the wrong different path. But how much tonnage do you think you can get into a trailer like that?
I'm not 100% sure on capacity because we kicked around a lot of ideas when we were kind of discussing this. Like, is one of them specifically going to be for cardboard only? Like, are you going to get better pricing if it's cardboard versus paper? And so we have not hashed out all of those details
Okay.
yet as far as like weight. And
So you're going to get paid for those trailers.
we're going to allow all payments to go to the city of Columbus because it's going to be
So when you said what it's going to cost, does that factor in getting some consideration for what you're disposing there?
What do you mean by that?
Well, so if you take a trailer full of cardboard, they'd probably give you something for it.
Sure. But yeah, so all of the whatever kind of profit is made from that product, like
Will
it
go
will
towards the
back
cost
to,
of-
go back to the cost of the actual program.
Well, that'd be
itself.
pretty awesome if you could, I mean, you're not probably going to pay for the entire expense of it, but help it.
Yeah. So we'll kind of see how that goes, but we're excited of where it could lead to. So
Sounds like an awesome idea. Yeah.
much
Keep us
needed.
Yeah, keep us posted. That'd be cool.
You got
All right,
Vanessa's photos first.
We'll go through Vanessa's photos and then we'll scare her with ours.
Oh yeah. So I mean, earlier you were just talking about contamination, and this
Mhm.
doesn't actually look like contamination because it's plastic bottles. But
Mhm.
again, we had to hand twist these off now and then empty out the product, walk a distance to go empty out the product,
Mm.
and then put it in the correct compartment.
Yeah, and that's, maybe somebody just, I don't know what that is. But, like, to me, recycling, if anybody asks, like, what the correct way to recycle is, everything just needs to be clean.
Yeah.
Clean, dry.
Clean and dry.
Hmm.
All right. So are these kind of similar in that it's stuff in plastic sacks that
Yeah,
shouldn't
so
be?
these were things that were just thrown into our actual compartments in the recycling trailer. This is how we literally took them out, like bags upon bagged of
Mhm.
bagged items. And so then we have to cut. It's just more labor
Yep.
intensive, and then sort because they don't put everything of the same product in that bag. It's a mix.
Yeah. So it's
They
not
got
like
all the different plastics in one
Yeah.
bag, just
Right.
thrown
it's
it
not
in.
like 3 through 7 is one bag
Yeah,
and 1
nope.
and 2s
It's
are.
like you get a milk jug in there and then some water bottles, Gatorade, whatever. So yeah, this was more than likely a 3 through 7 compartment, and so I probably took all of those prior garbage bags out of this compartment, and that's what was left in the.
Dumped it in there.
Oh.
So like, okay, so like
So-
Hy-Vee, you buy a cake in a plastic deal. What number plastic is that?
It's usually like I think a 5.
A 5? So
Mm-hmm.
like First Star Fiber, can they take a 5?
They do take a 5.
Mm.
Mhm.
Okay.
They do all 1 through 7.
What's the most commonly recycled plastic that's not allowed?
That's not allowed at Skylar, you mean?
Well, just in I mean, are there plastics that they don't recycle?
In Skylar, or are you talking Omaha?
Both.
Okay. I haven't seen any that they don't take. as far as Skylar, they have the capacity to take 1 through 7s as well. And then they also have the Hefty Energy program, so they can take it all.
Yep.
However, we just don't have that capacity because
Sure.
of the contamination rates were so high with our program for the 3 through
Just
7.
cut it out.
That, we were, like I said, we were driving up their garbage bill, and then just the extra manpower and labor that it took for our staff to go through and sort that.
Yeah.
These were an electric drum set. Like,
Nice.
talk about contamination. Why on earth would you think that we wanted that in our trailer or it even fit?
There's a little bit of plastic there and maybe metal there.
Maybe. So, yeah, that was left behind our trailer. And there was actually a very large round, like kind of beat up wooden table as well that was dropped off with this material.
You must really sweet talk the people that let you leave these trailers in their parking lot.
Well, so shortly after these items were left, we had to remove that trailer from that location because it was just it was
Blight?
causing, it
more
was
harm than
causing,
good.
yeah, absolutely.
That's a bummer.
Yeah,
Yep.
just
you
and
just
then
show up and
people,
that's what it looks like.
Yeah, people just leave them
trash
right
outside
next
the
to,
trailer.
and then not even tied. We have so much wind here.
Well, I think another thing too is like everyone in Columbus is like, why don't we have a recycling program? This is exactly why we can't have anything nice.
Because at least when we get contaminant in our containers at curbside, the accountability's right there. It's right at the front door.
Well,
So
and
we know,
it's at a specific person's house, and they're
Yeah.
paying for it, so
Yep.
it's just a different cut of material that we're
and
collecting.
we have that text messaging where we have tablets in the truck, so we just put a note, hey, don't put glass in the container.
Yeah, you hear glass, that's a text
Ding,
message.
ding, ding, and you
usually.
have a camera. So we just type in the tablet, don't put glass in it, and then it goes to the office, and Casey in the office will send a text. And
Yeah.
if the text doesn't go through, he calls them. So like it's immediate.
You would be blown
Direct.
away how clean our recycling route is, because Casey
Yeah.
runs it, and he runs the office, and he's texted everybody how to correctly recycle.
Yeah.
I
He doesn't
love
have
it.
any bags. He
Yeah.
doesn't have any glass.
That's great.
Yeah.
He's done a really good job with the route.
Was there actual kitty litter in this one?
No,
Okay, good.
it's just that you can kind of tell. So knowing recycled content, so there's a lot of number 1s, but then you also see number 2s.
Okay.
And so then it's just like, okay, it was clearly marked, but not clear enough because we still have so much mixed product that we are now hand sorting.
Do you think if companies made that logo bigger and brighter instead of just a stamp on the material?
I think
Do you
it would
think
be
it-
helpful because there's, like a lot of the elderly individuals that are recycling, like I can sometimes not even see the number
Right.
1 on the bottom of a water bottle. However, I know the difference in plastic. And
Yeah.
so if it doesn't even have one or you can't see it, that's a majority of the problem right
Yeah.
off the bat.
I wonder how much of that could be, because it goes back to that language and communication, where it's
Mhm.
like you try to do so much, where it's like, what if it was just mandated where everything was number 1 was a certain color plastic, But then you'd have companies that are like, no, the way we sell our pop is the green bottle sells
Yeah.
the Mountain Dew, and it'd be tricky.
Right.
But that's where, if you're a dictator, you could make that rule.
Make some really good rules.
Right.
Oh, and that's probably why I highlighted it even more. It was the compartment for milk jugs.
Oh.
Yep.
And so kitty litter, obviously not a milk jug. Very, very apparent, very visible.
Yeah.
It says milk jugs.
Yeah, that's funny.
And then it is not milk jugs.
That goes to the story I have about those stickers, like how to put out carts.
Yeah.
You have both pictures and text,
Mhm.
and you think, well, clearly it's.
But I mean,
It'll
so
be
what?
obvious.
Like what happens? People show up to the trailer, like, okay, the gallon water bottle compartment's full, so they're there, they're at the trailer, they're pot committed,
Yeah.
because otherwise they're gonna have to take it home.
Yep.
So then they're like, well, we'll just like sneak it in the milk jug compartment, and we'll kind of get there.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, that's gonna cause more harm than good.
And, I just don't know that there's a great answer for it because, yes, that's more than likely what happened is it was full. And so then it's like, well, it's a wasted trip now. I better get it in there somehow.
Mm.
Yep.
And it's
That's like-
kind of tough because, these 2 recycling trailers are not it for
How
a
much?
town of
What's
our
the
size.
turnover on a recycling trailer?
Every other day.
Every other day.
Yeah.
Every other day they're being
And then you're like us. You never know when people are going to show up and just cream you.
right.
Yeah.
Because all of a sudden something happens and everyone shows up.
And the weather, the drastic changes in weather. So
Yep.
when it's super cold, like it won't get used for 2 days. So then
Yep.
it throws us off. And
Then
then
you
it's
get
like,
that
oh, you
warm
get that
spring
one
day.
nice day in the morning. It's slammed full.
So
Like
ours,
everyone.
ours is coming up at spring cleaning.
Okay.
Like that first 70-degree day, everyone goes out in their garage and just
I'm gonna try to
It's
plug
going
that
to the
camera
curb.
in because the battery's getting low.
okay.
So
And I mean, we have that. I mean, it's just hard. That's what creates a lot of variability in like our routes that we're running.
Yeah, absolutely. It's tough because our capacity is so low in comparison to how many people actually want to recycle, and they want to do the right thing. Clearly, they're bringing their materials in. However, it just causes a lot of extra, time and labor for our staff when we're, emptying it.
Right. And when you say staff, I mean, this is truly just volunteers.
No, this is paid staff. We have a recycling coordinator and then another extra recycling driver. So,
Okay.
yep.
But still, at the same time, you're not paying them to sort out people making messes like this. You're
Right.
trying to keep them transporting it. And
Yeah, the
doing the
idea was
fundamental.
truly to make it fairly simple. We would drive the trailer to Skylar, weigh it, unload it, not needing to sort it, and then just drop it. That way we can, utilize more of our time if we need to make more trips.
Right.
However, it's the sorting process in there that takes an extra amount of time.
all right, we'll go to another one, and
Oh, this was when we still had 3 through 7s.
I'm guessing that's the problem.
We got an air conditioning unit.
Compressor and all, like a
Well,
full
There
air
might be some
conditioning unit.
copper in there.
They took out, I think they kept the copper because
course
that
they
wasn't
would.
in there, but
Yeah.
they left all of the torn apart components in there, and styrofoam.
Yeah.
Styrofoam, such a lovely product. That's all.
Would you get rid of
Sarcasm.
styrofoam?
I would.
That's your dictator
Yeah.
position.
I would get rid of that.
Packing peanuts.
I've heard
You don't need them.
no. Well, that goes to the story about when I asked if people ask you to chase stuff. My wife actually drove a garbage truck over 10 years ago, and she dumped a container where the neighbors threw all the packing peanuts in and just
Oh.
immediately blew down the street.
Yeah.
Gone.
It like snows
Yeah.
when you dump packing peanuts and it's windy.
A guy ran her down and says, well, who's going to pick that up? As if inferring she should pick it up.
Yeah.
And she's like, talk to your neighbor.
Yeah.
Like, it's 20-mile-per-hour winds.
Mhm.
Like, Usain Bolt would struggle to catch that stuff. So it's gone.
That's a good picture.
Yeah.
But yeah, so just some pictures of, what we got to see so that people could realize like, oh, okay,
Mhm.
not everything's recyclable.
A phone.
Got an old school phone.
Oh, that's great.
That definitely did not belong. And then this
Yeah.
is just, you asked about some maybe contamination for green fiber. This was the best picture I could honestly portray because
This isn't even bad.
Yeah.
This
It's-
isn't even bad. That's cardboard. Like people were using these like dumpsters.
right. But then again, so when you take our windy days into account,
Yeah.
and then these locations are businesses,
Oh,
and now they're littering
Yeah.
all over where they're not
Yeah, that's-
necessarily littering, but that's their property. This is
Yeah,
the
That's
one that
Pinnacle
was in.
Bank in the back. You have the old Pill and Family Farms
Yeah.
headquarters. Like
Mhm.
they don't want that in their parking lot.
No, and then neither do the neighbors who own the residential property
Right.
next door. And so it just caused a lot of problems with people not properly utilizing it and taking advantage of the great service that it was.
Well, so
Yeah,
the
it's-
largest green fiber drop location was at St. Bon's, right?
Correct.
And I mean, so that was 3 dumpsters. They had
13.
13. And then I think it was
Wow.
maybe you that told me that what was happening was people were contaminating it. And then the custodial service of St. Bon's was going in there and cleaning it all out.
Yeah, the janitor would have to climb in there and take out all of the grossness because otherwise then, they would have to hire a garbage company to come out and empty those
Right.
containers. And it's
Yeah.
costly.
But so
Very.
he was doing that, but then over summer, obviously it's summer hours, so then he wasn't tending to it. And then it was right at when school got out that was the breaking point for green fiber. But it was probably the custodial staff of St. Bon's that kept that alive as long as they did.
Mhm.
Yeah, they did a phenomenal job over there in trying to maintain it as a good central location, but it It all goes back to, we as residents and citizens of our community have to be good stewards, and utilize things properly that are beneficial to our community.
Yeah, that's one of we touched on it earlier, but it's one of those things where, like, we can hammer on and on about, oh, these are the numbers of plastics that are recyclable, and how to do it all, but maybe it all goes back even further to the fundamentals of actually, giving a shit about your society or your
neighbor and your community.
Yep. So, like, if more neighbors were networking, and one would mow the guy's lawn, or they. The whole baking the pie,
Sure.
You always saw these, like, kind of tropes portrayed in old films or something. Like, it seems weird, like a real long roundabout way to get better compliance, but maybe it's like we have to go even further back to the foundations of how people value each other's social or neighborhood.
Absolutely.
All right.
I think this was just, everything that we had in our...
So why can't it be bagged?
Why can't it be bagged? Because then, contamination, truly. So 1 year, our guy was running his route on Christmas Day. He took it on Christmas Day, and it probably didn't help that it was that particular day.
Mm-hmm.
But we ended up having a plastic bag full of human feces. In our recycling in one of our recycling compartments, and then we also had glass that day. It actually broke and shattered and hit his face. And so that was a really bad day in our recycling world. And after that, we stopped opening bags.
Yeah.
So if it was a small, like your household grocery bag, it just went straight in the trash. Like, we are not equipped to handle biohazard like that. And it's a safety issue, and just,
we
sanitation.
ran into that on the routes too.
And so it's not ideal. That's not where it belongs, especially not in our recycling trailer. And so after that, we had to just start everything in bags. Like, my staff was trained to throw it away. Like, if it's not see-through and you don't want to mess with it, you just throw it right away, because we don't know what's in there.
Yep. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff in garbage where you have to kind of take that approach, where if there's any doubt or if it elevates the risk, let the truck just toss it.
Right.
Well, it works, 100, 200, 1,000 times, but it only takes one time not working, and that just breaks it all.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Like, that's one of those things that's really hard to explain to people, the issue of injury, like how expensive they are. And granted, there's insurance and all that stuff, but still, it's just not good.
And then when you have a staff member who's, they got cut up, and it's like, oh, it's already, I already got you out here on Christmas.
Hey, that's a great place to work. You guys should go work there. I got this awesome story what happened to me on Christmas.
Right. Yeah. No. So, it's just, the amount of stuff that we see is
all right. Well,
insane.
So we are at an hour and 10 minutes. Do we want to fast track through some of our photos? Because we had some video clips pulled up, or what do you want to do?
We can do whatever.
I'm good to stay a little bit longer if you want to. Yeah.
Okay, we'll kind of speed through some of our photos. I think these are primarily mine that I've stored. So this is just an example of, like, the idea of having a cart is trash goes in the cart.
Yep.
But what's nice about this,
they're tied.
Bagged and tied. Tied.
So these drawstring tie, like, people don't tie their bags.
Yeah, they just
like
set them
a
in the
bag
thing.
at Tie It campaign would go so far for, like, litter reduction.
Just throw it all out on.
But like, okay, so like, what do we think of this? I mean, like, is this garbage day? Like, is this acceptable?
Well, the first thing I'm thinking is, man, that's a lot of trash.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, it's obviously either around a holiday season.
Nope, it's like that every week.
Yeah.
Oh,
it's
in
every
an
other week.
apartment
Every other
complex?
week.
No, it's a house.
It's a house.
It's maybe once every 3 weeks you'd have a good pile. There's a couple
That's
other
a lot
places.
of consumerism.
Are we like lacking policy that this goes on though? Or like,
is
this
at what
this
point is
okay?
it our fault?
Like, this is garbage day. That's what we want it to look like.
Yeah, no, I think it could, as far as like the wind that we have in our community, like, that's just going to
that's
make
it.
even
It's
more
all
littering.
over.
And then it should be just a fine on the homeowner that, like.
Well, then you got to get the city involved, because there's only so far we can push before they go to a competitor. And that's where it's tricky, because we've lost customers because they're like, hey, we don't want you putting it out like that. And they're like, well, I'll go to the competitor. And
Right.
then it's like, well, did we lose a customer or did we get rid of a problem?
And
Because-
we got comfortable just getting rid of these customers because
Yeah.
you don't make money when you pick that up.
No.
So like by getting rid of that stop, we are like more profitable.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like if the city wants to license haulers and tell them that they can, operate in the city,
Yeah.
at some point, I think the city should probably have some standards for what they consider a hauler does.
This one was fun because
Is that like mesh?
that is all fireworks.
Yeah.
And they do have a cart. Like I could see, I won't show their house. I'll blur homes and stuff. But up by the garage was the cart we provided. But they threw all the fireworks into the yard. So I think the thought was the guy will just get out and dig it out of
And
the grass.
scoop it out? Oh, yeah, no.
Well, the only thing I could think of is maybe they like were worried the cart would burn
Possibly, but you
Like-
can.
if they were hot, but
But if you were like what I would do, I don't buy fireworks anymore. Just spray it with a hose
yeah.
and then load it, or bag it. Spray it with a hose, bag it, leave it outside the cart until the day of service, then put it in the cart. Because if it's going to start on fire, you can bag it and let it sit, and then you'll know. But no, I don't think people.
What'd you actually do with this one?
That one I think I left.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not in the cart and it's not on the curb.
Because there's one time I picked up trash out of the grass when they didn't use a cart, and then that happened, and I put a note saying like, this isn't going to be a habit. Like,
Mhm.
If you do that, it just continues to happen.
Yep.
Oh, absolutely.
and you can charge them for it, and it'll still keep happening. Clean out day, just throw it all.
But
Yeah.
just again, like bag it, tie it. I mean, people will
Yeah.
just take a box and just create like a massive garbage container out of a box.
Oh, this is from a social media post. I
That
asked
day?
I asked the question, if I break the mirror, does that mean I get the bad luck? There's a few people that responded. That, and I was checking out my legs. They're looking
Yeah.
pretty good. More backwards, overflowing. Let's see. Yeah.
Oh.
I think this was
same
this-
that same house.
Same
That
house.
was that house
Oh.
earlier.
Yeah.
And this might have been before we got him that second cart.
I don't even think that would have
Oh.
fit in two.
Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah,
Where do you think that's going?
this same stop.
Wow.
All to the landfill. Sent a rear load truck, and the rear load's only used for trash. And we had to rear load that. Yeah.
They must have just moved. I'm
That's-
assuming, or
I don't know. Well, it goes to your question of consumerism. Like, people get mad that, hey, I have to pay you to pick up all this trash. I'm like, well, add up what it costs for you to buy all that stuff.
yeah.
Get mad at that bill, because that's thousands of dollars. What do you think we charged to get rid of that?
Not enough.
Never enough.
Never enough.
Never enough. Yeah. Pile.
So
Let's
like,
see.
imagine if these people would move to Phoenix.
Just.
Like Phoenix, like you can't have the lid cracked.
Oh yeah.
Like Phoenix is beautiful,
Yeah.
but there's a reason. Their city has policy around how garbage is collected.
There would.
You have a cart, you put it in the cart, the lid can't be cracked, everything's bagged and tied. Like if you create a litter situation in Phoenix, you're gonna get fined as a homeowner.
Yeah. Get hammered.
That would be so great here.
Right. As far as getting compliance, this is just they cleaned out all the kids' old homework. That
Oh,
blew
I
it.
actually know this home.
Oh,
Bag
dear.
it, tie it,
See?
bag it,
That's
tie
not
it.
a surprise at all.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I know which one it is
Yep.
too. Loose trash. If you're gonna put extras out,
Oh,
the food, like
right.
the
Pets and-
yep, anything that's a food product should be in the cart, and then non-food products should be outside the cart, bagged and tied, because the animals are gonna sniff it out.
Sure, absolutely.
Put it behind some bushes. Put it by a pole.
Hmm,
I don't know why. And then hide your cart.
that's a
so it's
lot
hard.
of trash.
Oh yeah.
Fairly well bagged and tied, though. I'd give them that.
Oh yep. And then we butchered our deer and threw that in the trash.
Really?
Yep.
Was that operator error?
Well, I inverted it, and usually trash just tip it, it empties, and you go down. But the coagulated blood, I think, just stuck long enough. So when you pulled back, that's when
It just kind of splattered.
that's when it peeled off the can and fell down the side.
See, and I always wondered, so the people who butcher the products in their home or
Yeah.
whatever, kind of like that deer carcass in the green fiber bin, like,
Yep.
is there, like, when you're processing meat, isn't there some, like, guidelines you should be following
You just can't sell it.
Yes.
but then you can just throw it in your normal household waste to get rid of?
I think it's one of those scenarios where it's like we'll ask for forgiveness instead of permission. Yeah, I think I did charge them for it though.
For the cleanup, yeah.
I think so. Because that was a couple minutes, And when you're supposed to be at a house for 12 to 15 seconds and you're there for 3 minutes peeling guts off, I think that merits a charge.
But like this is like not everybody. This is like a small percentage of people. So like what I don't understand is the majority of people in Columbus actually use a cart, set a cart out, and are like civilized. So like why do they let a handful of people do this? I mean, like I don't think it'd be that hard for like the city to come together with some like coherent policy that's like, you know what, on garbage day we're gonna have a couple rules. Like we're gonna have a couple rules. We're gonna put stuff in containers. We're going to have containers set out, lids closed, bagged and tied. Extras are acceptable, but, like, you got to charge for them to dissuade people setting them out or get them more containers. But, I mean, if you have no rules, this is what happens.
Yeah, and there's, it's a lot easier now that there's just 2 of you guys here in Columbus, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
so,
2 haulers.
Yeah, and so back when we had 7 or 9, totally different
story. Oh, the customer they'd keep calling every hauler until they got what they wanted.
Yeah.
No, so I worked at, we won't say names of companies, but the larger corporate company out of Fremont. I worked for that one. And they sent one route to Columbus to run. And 10 years ago when I was there, Columbus was the Wild West. No one wanted
to run the route.
Nope.
Really?
Nope. Because they were sending me out there to cover a guy's route, or the regular driver was out, so it sent 2 people because it's a scattered route, and there's this, and so I was riding along, and Danny, I think, was the one telling me, dude, he's like, you don't understand, they just throw it on the ground. I was like, what? He's like, yeah, you just, whether it's alley, street, whatever, trash, just on the ground. No one uses cans, baskets, nothing, just on the ground. It's like wild. And yeah, so Columbus had the reputation of just being.
And Fremont's no different than Columbus. It's an open market. There's 2 haulers there.
Yeah.
Yep.
But both haulers are pretty professional in their policy.
Yep.
You have to use carts. You have to get it in the cart. If it's not in the cart, it's extra if it's outside. And you go to Fremont on garbage day, and it's great.
Yeah.
There's just containers set out. It's normal.
Yeah.
There's not all this.
Yeah.
This doesn't go on in Fremont.
Yeah, and I took this photo because it was that rainy sleet thing, so all your loose unbagged stuff, wind blows it over, then it melts and freezes into here. So now you got people's used razors, toothbrushes, and that's actually pretty
like we pull up to this, is this our job to clean this up?
Yeah,
like we roll up to it.
We added a thing in our tablets called janitor fee. So the garbage man's supposed to show up and tip the cart provided, and it's like, okay, well, you'll see this in the comments. What's your job? You're supposed to take the trash. I'm like, okay, if I'm going to be a janitor, and janitors are critical, essential, nothing bad about them.
Yeah.
But if I'm going to have 2 roles, we'll charge separately for that. At least that's my opinion. Yeah, it's more of it. And a lot of it would have been prevented if they just tied the bag.
Sure.
Oh, yeah, food product in there, animals. This one was cool.
That one's kind of neat.
Yeah, that one you can grab with the arm because the guy actually duct taped everything back shut after he filled it with garbage. So that's actually pretty.
That guy did a very good job.
That's pretty solid. Yeah, I respect that. For Columbus, this is a lot of progress. This is huge. Yeah, styrofoam. That stuff.
Nobody's friend.
Nope. And these TV boxes, the top and bottom are always torn out.
Just fling it out there.
That's the problem with TVs getting cheaper too. Is everyone's just buying junk ones and they're tossing out like they're regular, constant.
When everyone got the COVID checks, like I think everyone got like $1,000 or something.
Yeah,
the TV boxes.
Yeah,
really?
Everyone went and bought a TV. It was the craziest thing.
Well, it was your only form of entertainment.
Yeah. Everyone was stuck at home. It's like I'll upgrade my TV.
Yeah, that one was fun because they stack it. So it's like we're going to make it very hard to get to your carts. Because my thing is, like, if you're going to set extra out, make the cart serviceable. So then your pile, I can just throw into an empty cart. Yeah. Now I got to tease the cart out of the pile.
Yeah, they have no idea what the right
they
way
don't
to set
know.
it out is.
No. It's wild. That's an impossible Jenga.
That one's, it's going to be really hard to get in your automated truck.
Uh-huh.
That's a lot of paint.
Paint, yep. I think.
They're empty, though.
I think most of I had to shake a lot of them.
Okay.
We ended up losing this customer because I don't know if it was because when they threw a whole swimming pool out, like the frame, the liner, all of it, and I might have charged like 30 or $40 because it was heaving that fabric up over the wall.
The like vinyl or whatever it is.
And I was there for 10, 12 minutes. And I was like, we're not going to do it for free. And then they left. And I was like, that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
I don't mind. This is to your point of consumerism. As far as I can tell, they didn't complain. But I'm looking at probably $1,000 worth of fireworks. And I was like, man, I'm going to take a picture. Because if they complain about like a $10 charge for me refilling carts, it's like you spend $1,000 on fireworks.
I had a guy at Wagner's Lake one time. I think I charged him. It took me 8 extra tips of the can, or 8 or 10 tips. And I think I charged him like $40. He called up to complain, and I don't answer the phone anymore, but somehow he and I got on the phone together, and he just was livid about this extra charge and couldn't believe that I would charge extra. Because he doesn't set his can out every week. Well, I don't set it out every week, therefore on the 4th of July. And then he's continued to brag that he spent like $6,000 on fireworks. He's bragging about spending $6,000 on fireworks, having the biggest display at Wagner's. And then he's complaining that I charged him $40 to
dispose of all of that.
haul off his firework display.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I don't think I can answer the phone anymore.
I'm trying to think of how we can turn this into merchandise. The whole idea of like just because it's worthless doesn't mean it's free.
Yeah.
Or something like that. I might have to work on that one.
As long as that little raccoon guy's on there.
Yeah, I need to do more of those. I've gotten behind. Yeah, I've had a lot of fun with those. So yeah, this was a move out. It was like a $10 Domino's gift card. And I was like, I don't know.
Oh, really? Oh, that was sweet, though. The thought was there.
The thought was there, but I was like, I don't think you understand what this is going to take for me to... I had to throw 2 bicycles up over the wall of the side.
Those are like old heavy bicycles.
Yeah.
That's where they lightened them up.
All right. So I was like, that's nice, but really? Yeah. And we have a rear load truck, but he's running her out. So I ended up servicing all of this. But it's one of those scenarios where it's like, it probably should have been a rear load. Like the grill. I had to throw a grill up there.
Right.
This metal shelving. Like
That's a big shelf.
Yeah, this was, I think, 17 minutes because I recorded the whole thing.
Yeah.
I should make a hyperlapse of it for a reel. Because this is one of those where the comments are going to be people saying, well, it's your job, you're supposed to take it. And then there's going to be other haulers saying, why would you take it? Like
they needed, what is the giant?
A roll-off box.
They needed a roll-off.
Well, and it was like an estate cleaning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
yeah. Same house that we've seen before. So, I don't like these with the lids on them.
that's what Columbus was like when I came here.
Yeah, I don't like
That's
that.
what that picture back there, because people didn't use carts. Carts weren't mandated.
Yep.
And that's what it was. So I show up, and it's like, how do I run like a viable company? And we're cleaning this up.
Yeah.
And that's where we were like, well, it's just not going to work. So you got to get rid of these stops and standardize everybody with containers and get trucks that can lift the containers.
Yeah.
It's been great for us. Like, we've done well.
Yeah.
I mean, this is where we started. It was bad.
Yeah, I'm still shocked I came over here.
Yeah, I can't. He was in Fremont. It was set up.
Yeah.
And he came over here, and
Well, I came to your house initially because he was asking questions about side load, and I answered him on the phone, and I was like, oh, well, I'll go there and answer him in person, and that kind of turned into, I don't know, was that an interview or was it, I don't know what that was, but I sat there, and I think at the end of the conversation, you're like, well, I want you to come over and do it. And I was like, ugh. I was like, okay, let me think about it, because Columbus had that reputation where I'm like, oh, I didn't even want to cover it for the other guy when at this other company.
Just to sub in every now and then.
Yeah, let alone to do it daily. Ugh. So.
but Thor coming over cleaned up. I mean, we've got thousands of stops in Columbus that used to be like pretty common. He's got it set up to where it's in the cart, it's bagged, it's tied. I mean, a lot of these are older photos.
Sure.
Yeah.
We don't get these photos that much anymore.
No.
It's gotten cleaned up
rare.
so much.
So yeah, there's definitely so we're hour 25 minutes. We should probably wrap it up.
Yep.
I had some videos. I'll do a montage. I'll just edit a montage of some of the videos we're going to show you.
Okay.
And we'll let people watch them because this will be on Spotify, but the YouTube will be the video. we'll wrap this up. You'll probably definitely have to come back again. Keep us updated on your trailer situation, getting cardboard. Yeah, do you have anything you want to plug or you want to add or?
Not right at the moment. We're just kind of working on getting things going.
Do a better job when you do your collection days to let everyone know that you're doing those collection days.
Our large scale?
Yep.
Yeah, definitely. Because, I mean, truly, you guys could send out a text message to all of your, your Columbus customers, or Platte County, I should say, because we're always open to the whole county.
Because there's a lot of stuff we've built up that if it's useful, it's like for us to send a text isn't a big deal, or to share a post.
That'd actually be the best way. We could just do a global text and be like,
maybe make the little raccoon make an announcement.
Yeah, there you go.
Like that's not proprietary to us. Like I've seen other people copy that now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm friends with some random guy that has a garbage company, and he said his wife started doing the same prompt.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, I was like, that's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, so Vanessa, I'm not gonna try. Okay, thank you for coming in on this podcast is garbage and updating us on what is Keep Columbus Beautiful.
Absolutely.
And
always love talking trash.
So. We'll talk some more. And there's definitely some stuff we can do in the future together. I think that will help both of us immensely and improve Columbus in general.
Yes, cleaner and greener.
Yeah, we're getting there. We've made some differences. So.
Progress.
Cool. Do you want to add anything, or should we wrap that up?
Nope, we're good to go.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks for coming in, and thanks for watching, everybody.
Yeah, thanks.